What is up, everybody? King, aka Gator Guy 231. It is a Wednesday, August 5th. We have a 6-game NBA slate. This is a tough one, but I think people that are paying attention, I've mentioned this before, will have an edge, especially with the final game of the slate, depending on how DraftKings updates things, really having a ton of juice. And I'm hoping, people get a little too antsy and fill up spots and don't get enough of this Boston-Brooklyn game as they probably should have. Just wanted to quickly say, sorry about yesterday. Zach, a.k.a. Keats, for those that saw the first video, recorded a preview, did an awesome preview, and we just could not get it uploaded in time. Just had some tough difficulties. I joked with him. He was bummed out that I couldn't make the channel, that he deserved something good to happen, a big win, and then he spikes the 7th place and the 20 for $3,500. So congrats to Keats. You deserve it, my friend. Great call on a number of plays there. Hope that our subscribers were taking advantage of some of his insights throughout the day. Before I jump into games, just a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. You have no idea how much it helps us if you continue to enjoy these videos. Gives our whole team motivation to keep doing this free content for you guys as we push to grow this channel more and more. All right, let's jump into the games. I am going to be using the DraftKings screen a little bit more here to go over pricing. Just a little bit less writing for me, as I half the time can't read my own writing, so it'll be easier to look on the screen. I am going to go a little different too. I am going to start with Brooklyn-Boston because I think that this is the most important game on the slate, and I will go over why now. So let's real quickly just talk about the spread and then what we're looking at for injuries. So Boston is -9. It's a 225 total. Big thing here is all the injuries. Everything you see on the DraftKings screen right now is mostly wrong. So Levert, on the Brooklyn side of things, Levert, Jarrett Allen, and Joe Harris are all expected to play after sitting out yesterday in that surprise victory versus Milwaukee, where Buds decided when the second half came around, I'm not worried about the game. Giannis, Middleton, Bledsoe, all you guys, go ahead and just sit. No big deal. So Brooklyn, with their scrub side, decided to pull up the massive upset on the Bucks. We should see all those guys back, which will give Brooklyn, obviously, a much better chance to win here. On the Boston side of the ball, they do have it marked now. They didn't last night, but Kemba Walker is sitting out, which is going to make Brad Wanamaker at 3K one of the chalkiest plays on the slate. All right. I do want to start on the Boston side and go over what no Walker should mean. So first off, like I mentioned, Brad Wanamaker has actually been really good in the bubble. Since we've seen him started, he has sorry. I don't do screen share. All right, so since we've come to the bubble, played 21 minutes yesterday versus Miami, 17.5 DK. Portland didn't get much run, but July 31st versus Milwaukee, 26.5 and 26 minutes. Look, I'm projecting him in that 25 to 28 minute range for 3K, versus the likes of Chioza or Tyler Johnson. I think he very, very likely gets at least 20 DK, which is 7X. Don't overthink it, I don't know what we're going to see from the industry and other touts talking about, well, he doesn't have a huge upside, doesn't have all these things. Look, he's 3K. There's going to be a number of studs that you want to fit here. I'm not personally going to overthink it. So Wanamaker probably lock in all my lineups. From there, I think the next play I think most people go to Tatum. I think Jalen Brown is probably my second Boston target. In the bubble, we have 31 DK, 45, and 37 for 6,900. So we're getting close to a 5X floor and then huge upside. That was with Walker. I've liked the fact that Jalen Brown is really looking for a shot, 23 shots versus Miami, 18 versus Portland, 15 versus Milwaukee, and seeing, 34, 37, 39 minutes at 6,900. Again, not trying to overthink this. It's a great matchup versus Brooklyn. We're not worried about the defensively. So I think Jalen Brown will be heavily involved. From the other play I want to talk about in Boston, Jason Tatum's had some mixed success in the bubble, but I think we can explain that away. Milwaukee's a terrible matchup versus Giannis, struggled mightily, 2 for 18. Miami, not a great matchup either. They started Kelly Olynyk, which gave Bam Adebayo a matchup versus Tatum or Olynyk. They kind of mixed and matched, and both of them are annoying as hell, so along with Jay Crowder. So those are tough matchups for Jason Tatum. I think he's going to have a lot better time versus the likes of Lance Thomas, or I can't even think of who's going to be backing up, like probably Kurex. So I do think that Tatum, we could probably project him closer to that 20-shot mark. 8,200 is a really fair price for him. The other option too is Gordon Hayward. And Marcus Smart, who I never get that excited about playing either of them. So, probably for Boston, Wanamaker, Tatum, Brown. But then, if I see people show up with Brown and Hayward, with Smart and Hayward, I won't call them idiots. I think that's very in play. You can always look at Daniel Dice as well. 5,200 I think is fine. Again, he just doesn't see huge minutes. So I just wonder, when you don't see enough minutes, what's your upside? On the Brooklyn side of the ball, I love Jarrett Allen here. Especially if throughout the day we keep seeing this out sign, I think people will start getting panicky, and maybe they don't have their utility or their center spot to play a center. But sat out last game, the game before versus Washington, absolutely blew up with 49 DK. Versus Orlando, he was well on his way probably to 30 to 35 before that game blew out. I think it's a matchup versus Dice, and that weak Boston interior that he can absolutely feast. And at 5,400, I feel like that price is almost just too fair. Caris Levert, the last time these two teams played, had 51 real points. So you obviously can go there. I do think the matchup still is not ideal. They can still throw Marcus Smart on him or Jalen Brown, both of whom are capable defenders. So I don't know if I'll be on Caris Levert, but hard to argue with him at 7,800. I think that's going to wrap up Brooklyn. I don't want to go too far into Brooklyn. I think more juice is on Boston. And overall, I started on this game, even though it's the last game of the slate, because it's that important to get this right and to have the spots left to get exposure to this game and take advantage of the no Kemba Walker. All right, so now let's go back to the first game of the slate, which also has big injury news. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for the rest of the season with I think it was Achilles, meniscus, I believe. Thank God not Achilles. But that's going to open up a huge role for Brandon Clark, who's at 4,600. Clark, player that both Zach and I absolutely love. It's just always a big thing for him. Is he going to get the minutes? He's going to get the minutes now. I don't see any reason that they shouldn't be starting him at the 4. And he is going to get undersized Royce O'Neal, who, while is a pest, I think it's a matchup that Brandon Clark can still take advantage of, especially at the 4,600 price tag. This is just to go to the total, Utah's 4.5-point favorite, 224 total. I think that the other can I go a couple other plays? I think John Morant at 8,000 is fine, just not necessarily somebody I'm falling on a lot. I'd rather go Mike Conley at 5,800. Conley's been pretty good since the restart, playing a lot of minutes, 34, 30, and 34. 2 games over 30 in that time. Struggle versus OKC and CP3, which makes sense. But, I do think that versus former team, a little bit of revenge narrative. Coming off 38.5 versus LA at 5,800, I really like that play. Donovan Mitchell shooting a ton as well. And then, I think Rudy Gobert is very in place. Center is loaded. So Gobert maybe in the middle of all that gets overlooked. Jonas Valanciunas is not a good defender, so something that Rudy Gobert can take advantage of. From Philly and Washington, we have Philly as a 10.5-point favorite. This is the highest total on the board at 231. I think Joel Embiid is one of the biggest decisions that you're going to make today. If the game stays close, he should crush. If the game gets a little bit out of hand, it might be a good time for Brett Brown to get him some rest. I think at this point, I'm Jokic over Embiid. As long as we see no Jamal Murray, just puts such a huge emphasis on Jokic and gives him, real triple-double upside. Whereas Embiid, always a great play, has a high floor, always has the ability to go nuts. But like we just saw versus San Antonio, he had a fine game, 31 minutes, 9 for 17, 27 and 9. But without the bonus, without like a huge rebounding day, his ceiling is just tough, like at that price. You have plenty of these games, but 79, you need 14 boards and 49 points, 69, you need 39 and 16. Like, he just does it. It's points and rebounds that, are going to direct his upside. So it's scary because the matchup is so damn good versus Thomas Bryant, and just the fact that Washington has no interior. But again, I think I'm Jokic over Embiid. Like I mentioned before, when I've done these, I ever play 4 to 5 lineups. Embiid's definitely going to be in at least one. Maybe I'll get him in a second lineup just because the matchup is that damn good. Ben Simmons coming off a terrible game. Look, the Sixers, it's to me, I play Embiid on a classic slate, or I don't play anybody else. They're too balanced outside of Embiid, and he's the matchup I want to target too. So I'm not going to spend any time on the rest of the Sixers. For Washington side of things, I think Troy Brown Jr. is still very in play at 5,500. He's getting a ton of usage, playing on ball a lot. He had 30 DK versus Indiana with bad shooting, but 10-8, and 7, like really came close to another triple-double. Before then, dropped 50 versus Brooklyn, 22, 10, and 8. Just kind of throwing the stat sheet. That type of guy under 6K is always super appealing to me. So I think he is very in play, especially in cash. Just on their point guard situation, so we saw Ish Smith start last game. He probably will be popular again. He has a little bit of revenge narrative. Issue is just the minutes between him and Napier. They're just splitting a ton. So he's getting up to the price at 5K, where I just wonder how much pure upside we have. 5X is good for cash, but for GPPs, we really want to be shooting for that 6 to 7X. And I think, you're running the risk with a guy like him that you're not going to get there. Also, just if you want like a lower owned play, I've been on all tournament, I've been playing a ton, I'm mentioning him, but Jerome Robinson, I think 4,800 we're getting to the price that we could probably avoid. Denver and San Antonio, big news will be watching Jamal Murray, who's still questionable. Even if he plays, I think he'll be limited. But if he plays, you potentially, Jokic is getting up there in price. At that point, if he's in, does it make more sense to maybe jump to Embiid? That will be kind of a question to me. Or, I didn't even mention it, but, Anthony Davis is coming off just an incredible game. Maybe you look at him in a matchup that he should be able to exploit versus the Thunder. On this game, Denver is a 4.5-point favorite. It's 227.5 total, so it's a really nice total. Jokic obviously is the top play. Gets an absolutely glorious matchup versus Jakob Poeltl, who does not have the lateral movement, does not have the skill to really take Nikola Jokic, who's looking quite drunk in this DK photo. But after struggle versus Miami, huge rebound versus OKC with a triple-double. It did take overtime, but he played 39 minutes. 66.5 DK, 30, 12, and 10. Love that he took 21 shots, and even love that we saw 16. Like, the Jokic that we like to avoid is when he's being too, generous to his teammates. I think right now, knowing there's no Murray, no Harris, no Barton to help carry the load, offensively, it's really him, Millsap, and Michael Porter Jr. So Jokic is being a little more assertive, which we like a lot. Again, matchup is glorious. I think that's a route that we may see a lot of people go on in cash. Michael Porter Jr. is coming off an absolutely insane game versus OKC. 59.5 DK, 12 of 16 shooting, 12 boards. They did price him up to 6,200. I think he's still very much in play. I love the 44 minutes. That's the thing to me that's sticking out. Is just that if we can get Michael Porter Jr. playing minutes, he's going to do work. He's just too much of a matchup nightmare. San Antonio doesn't have anybody they can put on him. He's going to be playing 3 for them. San Antonio is starting right now, Lonnie Walker at the 3, with Derek White and DeJounte Murray in the backcourt. I don't think Lonnie Walker has the size or physicality to deal with Michael Porter Jr. So somebody I'm going to be really interested in here. Definitely going to have some exposure. Haven't decided if I like him for cash. Other nugget, I think Paul Millsap draws a really, really awesome matchup with DeRozan playing the 4. Millsap is a lot more physical than DeRozan ever has been. So I wonder if that's a matchup that Denver exploits. Him playing 35 minutes in overtime is really, really appealing to me at 5,100. I think there's a good shot that you could get him over 30 here. And a nice little, 6X with some upside is good to look at. From the Spurs side of the ball, DeRozan is a pass for me at 8,300. I know he's been good. 2 games over 45. I just never know what DeRozan is going to show up. He was assertive versus Philly, but 10 shots versus Memphis and 13 versus Sacramento puts a lot of pressure on him. So I think at 8,300, I probably have better options. DeJounte Murray and Derek White are the two guys I'm looking at. Murray had 44 versus Memphis, but struggled to hit 30 in either of the other two. I think I'm more apt to be on Derek White just because of how much he's filling the stat sheet. He struggled, I watched him in that Philly game. He struggled versus Philly, but still almost got to 30. Before then, 47 versus Sacramento, 35 versus Memphis, under 6K. I think he gives you that upside at sub 6K to make it worthwhile. Over to OKC and LA. LA is -6, 218 total. My heartburn on this slate is what to do with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is going to draw Danilo Gallinari, who has no shot at defending Davis. Adams doesn't really have that much of a shot either. He's not quick enough. So Davis is just a nightmare for OKC here. 74 DK versus Utah. Just want to do a quick look at what Davis has done versus Oklahoma City this season. In the last game, we had Davis sit out. So that was fun. Should have prayed this a little bit before I went on. The game before that, 33, 11, and 7. That was kind of what I was expecting. So, huge game. And then he also did in the game beforehand, 34, 7, and 4. So, look, 37, 7, and 4 you can dodge. What you can't dodge is like a 42 and 12 game where he's dropping 74 DK, which is in play. So, I think that top level, if you're picking between Davis, Jokic, and Embiid, don't pick wrong. Like that's what I'll tell you. Like that'll decide the slate and swing a lot of money. I think right now, just price included, I'm probably Jokic 1, Davis 2, and Embiid 3, but I don't have a lot of conviction around it. LeBron James obviously always in play. I just weirdly think that I prefer the other ones to him, which probably means that James is going to pop off for 80, but I think he's the safest of everybody. But, we're just not seeing vintage King James in terms of shots. 44, 42, and 50 in the bubble isn't going to cut it at 10-7. And look, with the Lakers, to me, you're playing James, Davis, or probably bust. Kyle Kuzma, I guess at 4,300 is worth a look. But all these other guys are just playing this rotation so deeply. I'm not going to get excited by anybody else. For the Thunder, they're another balanced team. I think, honestly, I'm just probably going to avoid. With no Schroeder, Gilgeous-Alexander gets a little more second-team unit. Amadou Diallo, if you want just a pure punt, 3,100, I think is in play. But I'm not going to get too excited. Gallinari, I saw a lot of people on the last slate. I wasn't there just because the minutes, they scared me. This matchup scares me versus Davis. And the fact that even in overtime, you only saw 29 minutes. Yeah, I'm not sold on Gallo, so I'm not going to be there. I haven't looked at optimizers, but no matter what projections say, I'm not going to get there. Final game of the slate, Toronto versus Orlando. Toronto -6.5, 222 total. Here's what I'll tell you about this game. I won't have any. I'm a Magic fan. I don't see any Magic guys that I want to play versus Toronto here. Vooch gets the gross Gasol matchup. Aaron Gordon gets Siakam. No, I'm good. I'll just pass on Orlando side of things. Cheap. But he's not playing big minutes. In the bubble, 25 and 22 minutes, 16, 18 DK. I don't need that in my lineups. There's too many centers to target. All right. Well, that is 6 games, 12 teams, tons of news. I hope that this helps. If it does, give us a like, share a comment. Really appreciate any feedback that you have as we continue our product moving forward. Hopefully, Zach's technology tomorrow is working well, and he will be on to share some of his knowledge, and hopefully one of us will spike a big GPP today. Good luck today. Thanks for watching, and have a great one.